Hello and welcome back to the Divine Speaker. Let's jump right back into the forest with Rain and Fawn. I spent the day wandering around the forest while Fawn gave me the lay of the land. He showed me a few landmarks I could use to get back to his house if I ever got lost. I quickly learned which berries were safe to pick and which could poison you just from touching them. He said there's a lot of deadly plants around, so it's best to ask if I'm not sure. It was like he knew everything. I suppose when you only have yourself to depend on, you have to be a walking encyclopedia. His eyes lit up as he explained topic after topic. It was obvious he really enjoyed having someone to talk to. It's actually a little sad that he's been alone all these years.
Oh, I kind of forgot about it before, but do you ever cook anything? I notice you've only eaten vegetables and fruits.
Cook anything?
Yeah, like on a stove. Or maybe you just use a fire. I'm actually pretty good at cooking.
No, I don't usually. Fire is... No, I usually just eat fresh food.
Huh, I see. Well, I'd love the chance to cook for you at some point.
The sun was high overhead, swimming in the vast blue sky. There wasn't a cloud in sight, yet it still felt cool as a soft breeze washed over us. We've spent the day so far wandering from place to place, exploring and talking. Aurelia Cavella felt like so long ago already. Honestly, it was fun. My chest felt light for the first time in days. Just like hanging out with a friend. It felt normal. Slowly, with all the time in the world, we'd been collecting items from the riverbank we'd met at just yesterday. A worn blanket, slightly damp, but Fawn assures me it's still usable. A vase, the handle of a door.
Where does all this stuff come from, anyway?
I glanced towards Fawn, who was struggling with a mountain of random objects in his arms. He'd drop something, go to pick it up, then drop 5 more things in the process.
Give me some of those.
Thank you. As for where it all comes from...
He looked out into the distance, quiet for a moment.
I think this river connects to a large town, not far from here. I guess they must dump things into the river, and they come downstream and get caught on the banks. Giving them another use is better than letting them sit here. It makes me sad to see the wilderness so full of trash.
Well, we do have a river running through town. I've never seen anyone dump anything in it, though.
There's just so much here. It's hard to believe it was all just dumped.
It could be a different town. I've never been there, so I'm not sure.
There he goes again.
What do you mean? It could only be Aurelia Cavella.
Really, Rain?
But there's a few other places nearby, too.
Are you sure you aren't a little confused? Where else would there be? It's just the forest. I don't think there would be a lot of others like you living out here.
But that's not...
Before Fawn could respond, we heard a low growl come from the bushes to the left of us. I didn't even have time to think. Neither of us had the chance to react before an animal bounded out of the grass, straight towards me.
Watch out!
I braced myself for impact, but it never came. Instead, I was shoved and fell to the ground. From the ground, I finally got a good look at the thing that was slowly circling around Fawn. It was small and grey, teeth bared in a snarl. A wolf. It must be young by the size of it. Its dark eyes were set on Fawn, unmoving. Before it could get to me, Fawn pushed me away and took my place. What's he thinking? This is dangerous. Fawn stared back at the furious animal, not backing down. He slowly took small steps away from the animal, careful not to show his back.
Rain, just get up slowly and sneak away. I'll deal with this.
The hesitation was gone from his voice. The jittery, nervous Fawn I'd gotten used to was nowhere in sight.
Leave! We aren't scared of you!
In large motions, he waved his arms as he shouted. He was either trying to scare it or distract it long enough for me to get away.
Rain, quickly!
His voice was quiet, but powerful, commanding. Making sure not to make too sudden of a movement, I crept up from my place on the rocky ground, shuffling away from both Fawn and the wolf. My heart was beating 1,000,000 times a second. I could hear the pounding in my ears and feel it throughout my whole body. Please, lords, let them not hear it too. Fawn glanced at me out of the corner of his eye, still not turning away from the wolf.
Go back to the house. I'll leave after you.
I can't leave you here! You could.
It both started and was over in the blink of an eye. The wolf jumped straight at Fawn's face. Swiftly, he raised his arms to shield himself and ducked to the ground. When the wolf was directly over his head, he lifted his arms just enough to touch it and threw it into the river. The wolf crashed into the water, splashing about and whining loudly.
Quick, now!
We both picked up the pace, running away from the river as fast as possible. Fawn grabbed my arm and pulled me along in a vice-like grip. Behind us, all he could hear was furious splashing.
I thought we were meant to go slowly!
There's no time. Just go!
Fawn nearly pushed me up the rope, hurrying me into the house. As soon as he reached the top, he pulled it up after us. I collapsed to the floor in a heap, panting. Fawn did the same.
What? What just happened?
I don't know. They've never been aggressive towards me before. We're friends. Or at least, I thought we were. He usually listens to me. I feed him when I can.
My breathing may have nearly returned to normal, but my heartbeat was nowhere close. I looked over towards Fawn. Something red was dripping down onto the wooden floor.
What? You're hurt!
With a downcast expression, he rolled up his sleeve and examined his arm. Long red lines of blood dripped down and splattered against the floorboards, standing out as clear as day. He hid it behind his back, like a child with something they shouldn't have.
We have to bandage it or something.
I know a little bit of first aid, enough to help look after the kids at home, but is it enough for this? He had piles and piles of random bits of cloth around the room, but every time I tried to pick one up...
Wait, not that one. I just found that the other day.
Fine. If you really won't let me bandage it, then at least let me look at your arm.
I didn't wait for his objections. He turned his arm to face me. I think the blood made it look a lot worse than it was, but it still looked quite painful. I reached out to take hold of it.
You could have been killed. You need to be more...
Lies. You have been lied to. Protect him. Destiny, open your arms. Take his pain.
Where am I? A loud voice boomed through my ears. I couldn't see anything. It was just me, the darkness, and that voice. In the distance, I could see a light, bright like the sun on an early summer's day. I reached out towards it, my fingertips barely brushing against the cool radiance.
Rain, what's wrong?
When I opened my eyes, I hadn't moved after all. I was still in Fawn's house, holding onto his arm. As soon as my fingertips touched Fawn, my vision went black. What just happened? The darkness was gone, and so was the voice. Everything was back to normal. Before I could open my mouth, a bright light flashed out between Fawn's arm and my hand. The pain started in my fingertips and traveled upwards, all through my arm. An agonizing, burning pain. Not unlike that day. Before my eyes, the wound on Fawn's arm stitched back together, until all that was left was a line of dried blood.
Huh?
My arm began to ache in response. When I rolled up my sleeve to look, my jaw nearly hit the ground.
What is this?
It hurts. Blood started to run down my arm and drip onto Fawn's wooden floor, just like his did only a moment ago. It really hurt. Is this what Fawn felt? The same gash that was on Fawn's arm was now on mine. I locked eyes with Fawn. He looked just as confused as I did.
Huh? What did you just do?
That wasn't you?
He shook his head lightly, eyes wide. My mouth hung open in shock. I have absolutely no clue what just happened.
I don't know. I've never... This has never happened before. It's like
It's like you healed me, but now you have it instead. So I guess it's more like you took on my injury in my stead?
What? Just then?
Everything you do in life has an equal reaction and consequence. So...
Ouch. You didn't tell me it hurt this much.
He really was hiding how painful this is.
When I touched you, I heard the same voices that have been in my dreams lately. But this time, they were clearer. They told me it was my job to protect you. That I'd been lied to. Something about destiny. But my destiny...
I thought back on the judgment I received 18 years ago. The fate that's controlled my whole life up until now, and will continue to do so for the rest of my life. The judgment that I was reminded of at every opportunity. Even if I succeeded, I was pushed back down. After all, what could a useless boy with a useless judgment do in life? It's not something I want to talk about. Not yet.
The judgment I was given when I was born, it was nothing like this. What could this even mean?
Fawn stopped again, thinking.
But destiny is what you make of it, right? If you just live your life to what someone told you so long ago, you'll never get anywhere. It's not like you don't have the power to change it.
The destinies we receive are never wrong, though. The speaker is never wrong.
I looked down at the cut on my arm again. My destiny couldn't be wrong. I suddenly remembered the morning I woke up in the forest, the flowers that hadn't been there the night before. Did I have something to do with that? Maybe Fawn is onto something. Well, we gotta say, Fawn is spitting some truths right here, but also, I think it's less about... I mean, he's right, yes, no one can tell you your destiny, it's really what you make of it. On the other hand, the voice clearly told Rain, you've been lied to. Like, even if he did have a certain destiny, he was not told the correct one, right? Well, we know something fishy's going on, so... oh well. Or maybe not, I don't know. Rain. Despite his temperament, Fawn really has a way with words. I think I almost believe in what he's saying.
I guess I better bandage this after all.
Yeah. Let me help you.
Even though he refused a moment ago, he quickly wrapped my arm up, not missing a beat. No matter how closely I looked at my wound, it didn't go anywhere. It was really there. That really just happened. This could be an amazing gift, but I couldn't help but think about how dangerous it could be too. And how come this has never happened before? How could something like this happen out of nowhere? What triggered it?
Oh, Fawn?
He jumped, surprised when I called out to him suddenly.
You were really cool back there, though. I really felt like I could depend on you.
His face flared up again, as red as a rose.
Who knew you could be so dashing?
After everything that happened, it was finally starting to get dark out. The sun was setting over the horizon, leaving the forest cold and quiet.
Actually, there's one other place I'd like to show you today.
Is that a good idea? Do you think the wolf is gone?
Yeah. We'll be going the opposite direction, so... I wasn't actually going to show you this, in case it frightened you. But I feel like I should. It's the right thing to do.
We finished wrapping my injury in makeshift bandages, and I pulled my sleeve down. What does he mean, in case it frightened me?
What is it?
Well, it's kind of hard to explain, but I think you've already seen the effects of it. If your arm isn't hurting too badly, will you come with me? I know how much it hurt, so you don't have to force yourself.
He doesn't usually look so serious, and his words are making me a little nervous, especially after what happened earlier. But I guess after his performance before, I feel like I can depend on him if anything goes wrong. Plus, I've got to show him that I can protect him too.
Yeah, sure.
I followed Fawn down the ladder and through the growing darkness. This time, we walked forward felt like forever. On and on. Everything looked the same, as if we were going in circles. My arm throbbed with every step, but there wasn't much I could do about it now. I just had to suck it up. It was already pitch black out here. I hope Fawn knows his way. I watched Fawn's back whilst I walked. He had slim shoulders and a small figure, but he still looked fit. Maybe even more than me. He's probably strong too. Muscular, but so slim. I guess living out here he would have to be pretty in shape. I wonder how long he's truly been alone. And why? It isn't my place to be nosy, but I can't help but wonder. I don't think he wants to talk about it though, and I won't push him. His short hair was messy from running earlier. Well, messier than it usually was, which is saying something, since it's usually pretty wild anyway. At least he's not injured anymore. I felt at my arm, just to confirm the bandage was actually there. Yeah, it was. It really happened. I pulled up my sleeve enough to glance at my other arm. The markings still stood against my skin as much as the day they appeared. These markings, those dreams, Fawn's injury. What connects them? Is it all just one big coincidence? No matter how much I turned these thoughts around in my head, I wasn't getting anywhere. Nothing made sense.
Whoa.
Absorbed in my thoughts, I bumped straight into Fawn when he suddenly stopped in his tracks.
Shh. Look.
I peered out over his shoulder. My body instantly stiffened up.
What is that?
The forest in front of us was filled with some kind of blue glowing mist that gently swayed back and forth to an unseen rhythm. The color was unnatural, yet beautiful. In the haze, I could almost see faces. Blue, lifeless faces. 1 second they were there, and the next there was nothing, as if my mind was playing tricks on me.
The forest spirits. They're angry.
I listened closely to him, my breath stuck in my throat. We stood a distance from the mist and peered out between the trees.
They didn't originally come from here. The town to the west of here. The one that you're so sure is your home. Every once in a while, they dump things out here. Most of the time, you wouldn't be able to tell what they are. But sometimes, they're still whole.
I gulped. A cold sweat ran down my back, and my hands shook. I tried to hide them from Fawn, who looked as calm as ever.
Things?
I think you already encountered it before. The arm you found before we met. They've always been here, since before I came. But they're angrier. More now than ever. It's like they're sticking around for some reason, but they don't really want to be here. I can't think of any reason for such a large amount of bodies to be piled up the way they are. Lately, the flowers haven't bloomed as early. The leaves have fallen from the trees much more quickly. Fruits and vegetables barely grow. The animals stay in my house for safety or hide far away. Something's going on. Plus, that wolf from earlier. The forest seems angry, like it's lashing out at something that hurt it.
I thought back to home, to Aurelia Carvella.
They've been dumping bodies out here?
I couldn't watch them for even a second longer. They were terrifyingly beautiful, enough to make me feel ill. This can't be real. Surely, if I just look away or close my eyes, they disappear.
But the speaker says that those that die get buried in Azros, with the elders that live there.
I don't know anything about that. But bodies definitely get dumped out here, and their spirits linger for some reason or another. I wasn't sure I should show you this. I wanted to show you beauty rather than scary things, but you deserved to know. If you want to stay here with me, then you would have found out eventually. It's better if you learn from me.
I held on to the back of Fawn's shirt tightly. There's nothing I could say.
Let's go back now, okay? Just don't come back here by yourself. I've never let myself be seen by them, and I wouldn't want you to find out what they'd do to you if they did.
I looked back at the hazy figures one more time. They floated back and forth, silently. It couldn't be true. None of it's true. Surely they've come from somewhere else. But where? Where else is there? The speaker wouldn't lie to us. My mind flickered back to his icy eyes, the way he stared me down, despite never speaking to me before.
Let's go.
I kept a hold of Fawn's shirt as we turned to leave. Something deep inside of me told me not to turn back, but I glanced over my shoulder. The figures had all stopped. They looked like they were staring right at me. Or was it right through me? My head whipped back around. I didn't turn back again. The journey back to Fawn's house was both chilling and uneventful. Even when I expected something to jump out and grab me before dragging me back into the pitch-black darkness, nothing came. I held onto Fawn's shirt the whole time, but he didn't seem to mind. So much for acting tough in front of him. My eyes darted around, desperate for something. Anything. No matter where I looked, I could feel those ghostly figures watching me. It's only my imagination, right? It's just the forest. Once we got back to Fawn's treehouse, I went up the ladder as fast as I could, and he quickly climbed up after me. All I wanted was the comfort of walls around me, even if they were in a tree. When I looked at him, his face seemed grim, his expression sullen.
I'm sorry. Would you have rather I didn't show you? I don't know if it was a mistake or not. They've always been there, but they've never left that area. It's like they're stuck there. I don't think they can follow us here, so we're safe. I wouldn't let you be hurt, you know.
He looked away from me.
Don't worry, because I'll protect you.
He spat out that line before turning around and pretending to be busy. He whirled back around, his face bright red.
What's so funny? I'm being serious.
I couldn't help it. Rather, I didn't want to help it. It felt good to break the tension.
No. I believe you.
It doesn't sound like it.
Sometimes Fawn really does seem full of youthful energy. What a brave guy. So dependable. Actually, now that I think about it...
So, Fawn, I know you said you didn't know how long ago you came here, but do you know how old you are?
He stopped what he was doing to think for a moment. His face was still as red as a tomato, though.
I should have turned around 20 this year, I think.
Whoa, no way! I can't believe I'm younger than you.
This whole time I thought he was the same age as me. His small frame doesn't help that. I mean, come on, 2 years, whatever.
Wait, how old are you?
It was my 18th birthday 2 days ago.
You got thrown out on your birthday?
He looked pretty upset.
Yeah, but like you said, there's always two sides to anything. I might have left my home, but I wouldn't have met you otherwise.
I smiled at him. I wasn't even really exaggerating. It's true. Bad things have happened, but Fawn's been the only reason I've survived out here. So I have to look on the bright side. Honestly, it feels like we've known each other for much longer than we actually have. It feels natural to be this close to him. I wonder if it's because of his personality? It makes me want to trust him, to get to know him.
I mean...
He covered his bright face up with his hands so I couldn't see him.
Sometimes you say the most romantic, corny things. It's embarrassing. How do you come up with these lines?
Romantic?
I thought the word over in my head. Romantic? Nope, I've definitely never heard it before. Okay. That explains some things.
What does that mean?
He uncovered his face and looked straight at me.
You know, like, kind of lovey-dovey, mushy,
Lovey-dovey?
you know, love?
Hmm?
You can't be serious. It's what one person feels for another. And they get married, have kids, be in love, kiss, you know. It's that feeling you get in your chest when you look at someone you want to spend your life with.
I've never heard of it.
Wow. What a sad place is Aurelia Cavella, really. It's getting clearer and clearer. Oh boy. Maybe this is some kind of forest lingo. Should I try to fit in? Oh dear.
Haven't you seen people in your village in love? With children?
At home. Of course we have children. The speaker usually just pairs people together. We don't get to pick who we end up with. Most of the time it's people of similar positions or class. Then they have children. But I've never heard of love, or kissing, or marriage.
You don't have love? Are you telling me it doesn't exist there? How can that be true? How could anyone survive without love?
Oh. Okay, so I didn't know that where rain comes from is really that dystopian. But oh my god, these options now. Either, can you teach me what kissing is? Marriage, what does it mean? It doesn't sound important. Now that's just a lie. I mean, let's go for it, right?
What's kissing? Can you teach me?
What? No! That's way too embarrassing.
He wouldn't make eye contact with me. That made me all the more curious. I feel like I'm missing out on something.
Please? I've never heard of it before.
It's like...
He pursed his lips together.
when you put your lips on someone else's lips, and then, like, move them around a little bit. I've never kissed anyone before, so I'm not really sure either.
You put your lips together?
When you describe it like that, it does sound weird, eh?
Why would you want to do that?
Because it feels nice, I think.
Can we try it?
No!
Before I could ask any more questions, he leapt into the bed and buried his face in his pillow.
I'm suddenly really tired. Good night.
He seemed kind of embarrassed. Is love embarrassing? How come I've never heard of it? I laid down on my back next to Fawn, arms behind my head. More and more questions. When am I going to get some answers?
Hey, Fawn?
No response. Either he's too embarrassed, or he is already asleep. I quietly stripped down to my underwear. I should think of a way to thank him properly. Why do you have those sentences right after each other? Yeah. Oh. With my eyes closed, I went over everything that's happened in the last few days. This marking. That red-headed man. The speaker.
You look just like your father did.
Did he know my father? How? Why? No matter how much I thought about it, no answer came to me. Instead, I slowly drifted off to sleep, to the sound of Fawn gently breathing.
Wake up. Quickly. Spreading. Awaken. Wake up.
Gotta say, that's a weird type of alarm that he has there. I blinked open my eyes and turned my head to the side.
Oh, another strange dream.
Either they're getting less terrifying, or I'm slowly getting used to them. What a scary thought. If only I could understand what they were trying to tell me. Something's kind of uncomfortable. Oh. It's way too warm. I feel like I'm burning up. I tried to kick the sheets off my legs, to find that Fawn had wrapped himself up in them, and I didn't have any. Why is it so hot then? He was still asleep, a small crease in his brow. I wonder what he's dreaming about. He must be tired after everything that happened yesterday. I reached out and brushed a few strands of hair off his face. They were stuck to his forehead, which was drenched in sweat. I glanced around the room. There was some kind of faint glow shining through the floorboards. What? Surely it isn't morning already. When I looked towards the doorway, the sky was still dark.
What's that noise?
Something's not right. I quickly slid out from beside Fawn and walked up to the door. My chest felt tight, and the air left my lungs.
No.
A wave of panic crept over me. The trees surrounding the house were engulfed in flames, and thick smoke billowed upwards towards the sky. The moon and stars were hidden. Actually, it wasn't just the surrounding trees that were alight. Flames licked at the bottom of Fawn's wooden floorboards. It wouldn't be long until the whole thing was aflame. I grabbed my clothes as fast as I could. We have to get out of here quickly. Not just quickly, but now.
Fawn, get up, quick!
I shook him until his eyes opened.
There's a fire! We need to get out of here, now!
The heat was starting to make it difficult to breathe. If we wait much longer... I grabbed my things whilst Fawn scrambled out of bed.
Oh.
Fawn stood completely still, staring at the ground. He made no effort to quicken his pace.
Fawn, we have to go! Right now! Like now!
Listen. You do it on purpose. I didn't mean...
He was holding his head in his hands, staring at the ground. Even when I yelled at him to move, he stayed still. We have no time for this. I grabbed him by the hand and pulled him towards the doorway. He didn't resist, but he also didn't try to run with me, instead letting me drag him along. The rope to get down was already alight, so that was off the table.
Fawn, I want you to jump after me. Can you do that?
I looked over at him. He gave me a slight nod, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. I jumped first, barely clearing the flickering flames that were quickly covering the forest floor. Once I'd landed safely, I turned back towards Fawn, arms outstretched without a second thought. But he didn't move.
Fawn, do you trust me?
He blinked a couple of times. He didn't say anything. He just jumped. I caught him in my arms and quickly set him down on the ground. We stood on the forest floor for a moment, still holding on to each other, and the reality of the situation started to sink in. I followed Fawn's gaze up towards his treehouse. Who could have done this? He looked lost. He didn't make a sound, nor did he cry, as the flames began to engulf the entirety of his home. He just stared ahead, completely still. An unspoken sadness came from him, like his heart had broken into a million pieces.
Vaughn! Vaughn, come on, please! We need to go! It isn't safe here!
There's 2 of them. Shouldn't it be only 1? I didn't hear anything about 2.
Is that a voice? My ears perked up at the sound of talking. Someone else is here. I couldn't work out which direction the voice was coming from through the crackling and popping of the flames. I tightened my grip on Fawn's arm. He's still just staring. The smoke was beginning to get thicker, and the longer we stood here, the harder it was to see. It's getting pretty difficult to breathe.
Where's our other guy? I've lost visuals on him. Nothing good ever comes from working with the likes of him anyway.
There's more than one of them. This is bad. If I can't get Fawn to move now, we'll either be cooked alive or found by whoever is looking for us.
Vaughn, listen to me. I think whoever caused this fire is still here. We really have to go, now. I didn't.
I grabbed his shoulders and turned him to face me.
Please, Vaughn. Okay.
I gave his arm a little pull, and this time he followed behind me easily, but his eyes were empty. He didn't say another word. The falling embers were lighting the grass around us on fire faster and faster. Every direction was getting completely engulfed. If we don't find a way quickly... Thank the gods it isn't windy out. We had only made it a short distance before Fawn came to a halt.
What's wrong?
There, to the left.
The left? My eyes followed his in the same direction. I could see 2 figures in the distance, approaching Fawn's home. It doesn't look like they've seen us yet. It seems like they're looking around the burning shrubs, searching. They must be looking for us. Fawn's house looked ready to collapse, and the fire still burned as strong, if not stronger, than before. Yet they still searched. We need to be as far away from this as possible right now. Risking their lives like that, are we that important to them?
Shouldn't you 2 be running?
Who? Another voice, different from the ones I heard earlier, shot out between the sounds of crackling fire. Whilst Fawn and I were preoccupied with watching the other 2, we didn't notice another coming from the right of the tree line. The third person came into view. He was close. Close enough that if I took a few steps forward, I'd be able to touch him. My first thought was to ask for help, but a tug on my hand stopped me in my tracks.
Wait. He's armed.
Ah, you noticed.
The man chuckled faintly. In his hand, what is that? It looked like some kind of rope. That's the least of our worries by the looks of it. In his other hand, he held a dagger. This is dangerous. I think we should.
You know, it was way too easy to follow you out here. You don't exactly try and cover up your tracks, do you? If I was in your shoes, that would be the first thing I'd do. Guess We can't all be as wise as me, though.
How would he even know? One, how to do it. Second, why he should do that. Follow? Fawn pulled at my hand again until I was standing directly behind him, placing himself between us.
When they told me I'd be tracking some guy out into the forest, I was a little worried. But you know what? The thrill of catching you here is worth it.
He took a step towards Fawn and I. I flinched. A cold shiver ran down my back, and I could feel myself covered in sweat. Have I heard that voice before? I searched desperately through the thick smoke. He was tall and slender, but most of his figure was obscured. Red hair? The only thing I could make out on his face was a sly grin. I could hear Fawn whispering to me, desperation in his voice.
Rain, we need to run the...
A loud creaking noise came from behind, as the first part of Fawn's house began to crumble to the forest floor. The other two men were still at the base of the tree, but the debris just missed them. They continued their search, oblivious to what was happening over here. Fawn tightened his grip on my hand. I wouldn't be surprised if it bruised later.
Fawn, I think that could be...
Rain. Rain. Wake up. Safety. Find him. Go. Far from here.
Where am I? I'm on the ground. Why? The fire? That man? Fawn. Fawn!
Fawn!
Rain.
When I sat up, the world around me span. Fawn was sprawled out on the ground not far from me. I crawled over to him. He didn't look hurt, but he seemed pretty out of it.
Are you okay?
I'm okay. I just... what? Where am I? What just happened?
He seemed a little confused, but I couldn't blame him. I'm confused too. I just hope he didn't hit his head. I checked over his body. He has a few scrapes, but it doesn't look like he's bleeding. Phew. Slowly, I glanced back towards Fawn's house. Well, where it used to be. But now it's just a mountain of debris. What exactly just happened? It was falling, but then... all I remember is a loud bang.
I think it exploded. Did you have something explosive in there?
The ground and trees around us were lightly charred, but the worst of the flames had gone down. Only embers were left sizzling on the ground. My throat felt hoarse from the smoke. I wish we had something to drink. Everything that Fawn had is gone. Everything he owned, collected, loved.
I'm so sorry.
What am I meant to do now? This is all my fault. I'm being punished.
It's not. Those people...
What's left for me now?
His question hung in the air, lingering. I don't know what I can say to him. What can you say to someone that has lost everything? Nothing. There's nothing I can do to make this better. That makes it even more painful.
My friends. Where are they?
I'm sorry, Fawn. I wish I could do something.
Sitting here wasn't going to solve anything, though. I pushed myself onto my feet, swaying a little at first. The smoke definitely went to my head.
I'm going to see if anything survived the...
Do you think?
Fawn glanced up at me from where he was seated on the forest floor.
The other people? I don't know.
I'll come with you.
I held my hand out to Fawn and pulled him up beside me. This is just awful. I looked sideways at Fawn, glad to have him by my side. I don't know exactly what we'll find over there, and I'm worried about those strange men. Are they still nearby, or... We walked back towards the smoldering pile of wood where Fawn's house once stood. I could see Fawn's treasures littered about on the ground, most of it burnt to a crisp and barely recognizable. I crouched down to the floor and pushed through the ashes and rubble. I picked up a little wooden toy, untouched by the fire somehow. An animal. A small, sad smile came to his face when I held it out to him.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I feel like if I wasn't here, none of this would have ever happened to you.
I can't handle this guilt. My chest feels heavy, like it's slowly consuming me. I'm the first person he's ever seen out here, and he showed me kindness when he didn't have to. Look what he got in return. His whole life is ruined in one night. Everything is built up, everything he loves, all gone.
No, it's not your fault. I don't want you to blame yourself. This is because of me.
Let's be real for a second, it's neither of them is at fault here, obviously. Come on. I don't know how much longer I can hold back my tears. We worked together to move some of the debris until we finally made out some scraps of fabric. All melted to the lifeless bodies underneath them. As disgusting as it was, I couldn't look away. They were people too, even if what happened to Fawn was probably their fault.
I guess they didn't survive.
The two men were half crushed underneath the rubble. They didn't stand a chance. I hope for their sake they died quickly when the tree collapsed, rather than slowly in the flames. Fawn put his arm around my shoulders and turned me away from the gruesome scene.
Don't look anymore. It'll only make it worse.
You're right. Did you see the third one?
I'm not sure. Everything's so burnt.
He was standing so close to us, I could have almost touched him. He might have survived. If he's alive, is he still in the area? Or did he flee after seeing what happened to his companions? I don't know. I scanned the area. Nothing. Wait. I caught a glimpse of red between the greenery. What is that?
Wait, look over there.
I walked towards the vibrant color and pulled back the charred branches that stood in the way. My breath caught in my throat. Slumped up against a tree trunk was a man. Long flowing red hair, eyebrows furrowed in pain. It wasn't the first time I'd seen him either. A man that I bumped into only a few days ago. The one that told me about the Speaker's archives. A man from Aurelia Carvella.
No way.
I heard a gasp from behind me. Neither of us expected to find him so easily.
Shit.
Thousands of questions swirled around in my head, but now wasn't the time. He looked hurt. Slowly and quietly, I inched closer to him. From a distance, I can see he had some cuts and bruises, but they didn't look too bad. There were scars on his stomach and arms too, but they looked old. How did he get these? I knelt down beside him. Right now, whatever he did or said doesn't matter. He just needs help. Rain, aren't you a little too trusting here right now? I started at his legs and worked my way up. No injuries here. Stomach seems fine, apart from a bruise or two. I looked back at his face. Eyes that were previously closed in pain now bore into me. He didn't look happy.
Ugh!
I'm too close. Barely a second went by before a blade was pressed against my throat. I froze. What do I do? He pushed the knife against my skin, and I felt a warm, stinging sensation, followed by the feeling of something wet running down my throat. I swallowed, but my mouth felt completely dry. His eyes hadn't left mine this whole time. They were watching me, almost as if he was judging my every movement.
You're injured. Let me...
You think I need help from someone like you?
He smirked at me, though it was obvious he was still in pain.
I'd die before letting a pipsqueak like you...
Mid-sentence, he started coughing abruptly, a loud, throaty cough. Now's my chance.
Gotcha!
Before I could do anything, Fawn came up beside me and knocked the blade right out of the man's hand. My hand went instantly to my throat. I was met with a wet sensation, but the cut didn't feel very deep. The stinging was only mild. When the injured man started reaching for something else, I noticed red all over the hand he just cuffed into. Wait. Something else? I quickly grabbed both of his arms. They both felt toned and strong. He was definitely fit and much stronger than me, but his injuries must have weakened him a little.
Fawn, see if he has any other weapons.
1, 2, 3, 6 other daggers. And a whip.
You're... well equipped.
Well, I was. Now I'm not equipped at all.
I let go of his arms. He was barely fighting against me now. I peered into his face again. A line of red trickled out from the corner of his mouth.
Which parts hurt?
I'm not much of a doctor, but there must be something I can do.
Which parts hurt? God, where to start? My legs, my back, my stomach, my throat. But you know what hurts the most?
I looked up at him eagerly, ready to try and help.
That I have to see your dumb fucking face this close up. Get away from me.
He smiled to himself. I guess he thinks that's really funny. Well, I'm laughing. How does anyone deal with people like this?
Excuse me. We're just trying to help you.
What's that? I'm sorry, I don't speak mouse.
Oh, sorry.
Don't say sorry. He's being rude to you. And you obviously need help, and we're going to give it to you, whether you like it or not.
Aggressive kindness. Perfect.
I'd like to see you try.
How unappreciative can you get? Why is he so opposed to help that he obviously needs? The other day, what I did to Fawn. Maybe I could try that again? I don't owe this asshole anything, but... yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I mean... oh, we get it. Rain is naive. And obviously ready to help. But if he was coughing blood, do you really want to take that on yourself? For a stranger who didn't do you any good? Like, pretty much the opposite? No, well... I don't owe this asshole anything, but... if I could take away just a little bit of his pain, instead of it all... I don't know how to, but it couldn't hurt to try, right? Aren't you contradicting yourself right there? Couldn't hurt, huh? Fawn's already stripped him of his weapons, plus he's injured, so it shouldn't be too dangerous to touch him, right? Last time, all I did was touch Fawn, and it happened. I reached my hand out towards him. His arm was covered in cuts and bruises.
Touch me, and see what happens to you.
Sounds like an empty threat to me. What are you gonna do?
He's struggling to just keep his eyes on me, so I doubt he'll do anything now. I ignored his words and lightly touched my fingertips to his wrist. A flash of light, booming voices. Not. His skin felt warm, but nothing happened. It worked last time.
What the hell are you?
He started to cough violently again, more blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Any resistance he had before was gone. He didn't even shake my hand off of him.
Are you okay?
Get lost.
Just let us help you.
His eyes slowly narrowed before they fully closed.
Fawn? Why did he close his eyes? Is he okay? What do we do?
Fawn rushed over to my side, tossing the daggers and whip to the ground. He felt at the man's throat, carefully. All I could do was watch. I've never felt so useless.
He's alive. But he's obviously pretty badly injured. We need to get him somewhere we can check and clean his wounds.
In times like this, Fawn seems like a different person. Dependable, strong, unlike me.
Why didn't it work?
Fawn looked at me for a moment, thinking.
I don't know. Maybe you just can't control it yet. Maybe it was a miracle.
Last time the voices told me to help you. This time they were silent. Anyway.
Carefully, I lifted the man onto my back. He's so much taller than me, so it's kind of awkward.
Fawn, can you gather his belongings? We can carry him over to the river and check him out.
Yes.
He scurried around, picking up the weapons that lay discarded on the forest floor.
All right, let's get out of here.
Fawn took one last moment to stare in the direction of his destroyed house. But only one, before turning away and following after me. Lugging this guy across the forest was no easy feat. Fawn ended up having to help me with his legs, since they were dragging on the ground, and he was groaning and shifting around every time he got caught on a bush. How unappreciative. What a troublesome guy. Eventually, we reached the river. What should have been a 15-minute walk slowly became an hour-long struggle. I placed him down on the ground carefully, with a sigh.
That took a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah, he's way too tall.
The redhead was still out cold. This is our chance to check his wounds properly without him complaining. We looked over his exposed arms and stomach again, but there was nothing life-threatening. Fawn got to work with cleaning the dirt from those wounds, whilst I checked elsewhere. His face? Fine. He's actually got pretty nice features, but you can barely tell past his awful expression. Legs don't seem to have any problems. They feel quite muscular too. I felt them for a moment before moving on. I looked again at the small trickle of blood coming out of his mouth.
I guess I should check his mouth?
I glanced at Fawn for confirmation. He gave me a little nod. All right, here it goes. I touched a finger to his mouth. His lips were soft, softer than they ought to be for someone with such nasty language. I parted his lips with my finger and opened his mouth. His eyes shut open. We instantly made eye contact.
You mind getting your fingers out of my mouth?
Oh, of course.
I took my finger out of his mouth and a disgusted look spread over his face. He spat and reached for his belt.
What did you do with my weapons?
Don't worry, we have them safe.
Oh, I'm not worried about them. You just know what they say. Don't let children near sharp objects and all. Especially if that pipsqueak over there has them.
It looks like his attitude wasn't injured. He sat up, but it looked like moving took a lot of effort. Right now, he doesn't seem too dangerous.
Listen, you need our help. You obviously can't leave by yourself, so just cut the attitude and let us help you. Why don't we introduce ourselves? My name's Rain, and the one with the light hair over there is Fawn.
And I'm the king of Aurelia Cavella. Fine. Leos. You should have just left me where you found me. Can't think of anything worse than being indebted to someone like you.
Stop being so unappreciative. We could still leave you here.
Fawn walked back over from the river. He'd gathered some water to clean Leo's wounds.
This might sting a little.
Ouch.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. It serves him right.
There you go. That's how you treat people like this. You just counter them. I chuckled quietly. That's what you get for being nasty. While Fawn was busy, we had a moment of silence. Finally, a chance to ask some questions.
So, what exactly is going on? Did you burn Fawn's house down? Were you with the other two?
He watched me with narrowed eyes, probably deciding if he even wanted to bother answering my questions. Eventually, he just sighed.
No point in keeping it secret now. If I go back, they'll just get rid of me anyway. I know they'll look for any excuse. Someone hired me to track you down, and paid well for it, too.
And the other two. The fire.
Yes, I was with the other two, but they were idiots anyway. I'm sure they're burning in hell by now. You can blame them for the fire. I wouldn't do something so showy.
Someone hired you to track me down? Why? Now you're going to stay quiet?
Sorry, I was just admiring how dense you are. To kill you, obviously. I didn't know about the other kid, though.
He glanced at Fawn.
What? Why would anyone...
No clue. I just follow orders.
I felt sick. Who would do that to me?
But... in the town square.
Whoa! You're not a total airhead after all. I'm amazed. The only instructions I received were to follow you and direct you to the archives somehow. Not the kind of job I'm used to. Any sane person that wanted you dead would have had me assassinate you in your sleep, but money's money. Not my job to ask questions. I thought it would have been more work, but you took the bait easily. You should learn not to trust people.
But I was thrown out because of that. Because of you!
You were thrown out because you're so gullible. That has nothing to do with me.
Well, yes and no.
Maybe you shouldn't believe everything you're told, huh? Anyway, you can blame whoever employed me. I'm not taking the blame for that one.
Let me jump back to that sentence. That, yes, Rain is quick to trust and believe stuff, but then he doesn't believe when Fawn tells him there's other cities. I mean, sure, it's contradicting what he's been taught all his life, but... like, if you're looking for answers, if you're so nosy, if you want to know stuff, like, why end up doubting that more? Oh well.
Then, what do you know about my markings? You said you recognized them.
Absolutely nothing. I just repeated what I was told to say. How am I meant to see something your sleeve is covering? Idiot.
Wow. My face flared up. I really do feel like an idiot. Whoever hired him was the one who knew about my markings then. I have 2 leads. Prince Caspian and Leo's employer. Neither would be easy to find. It's not exactly like I can traipse back home to question them. And what about the prince? Is he even alive? I've never heard about him from anyone. Fawn watched me with worried eyes, but still went about cleaning Leo's cuts. Before I could ask anything else, he cut back into the conversation.
I've cleaned up your wounds as best I can, but
He glanced at Leo's mouth.
I think some of them may be beyond us. We need to get help from a healer or a doctor.
How? If either of us enter Aurelia Cavella, we'll be toast.
Well, if we go east, through the forest, we'll eventually get to Stagwitch. Sidcaeum is past that, but it's pretty far away.
Those names again. What's he talking about?
Fawn, I didn't want to say anything before, but maybe you're a little confused from being out here so long. Aurelia Cavella is the only place nearby. Well, the only place full stop.
There we go again.
The rest of the world is just forest. You should know that.
You keep saying things like that. Is that really what they told you?
He had a sad look in his eyes.
I'm not sure what they taught you in your hometown, but there's an entire world out here. Cities, villages, nations, people. I've never even heard of Aurelia Cavella.
What do you mean? You've never been there?
I don't think so. It's kind of strange. I remember following the river at one point, but there was a dense fog, and I'd find myself back at my house. I'm starting to believe there's not a village there at all.
Of course there is.
You keep some, interesting company. A crazy, delusional wild forest boy, some kind of cross between a mouse and a fairy.
I'm not crazy. I can't believe that a place with those kinds of teachings could possibly exist.
My book does say something about Sidcaeum, but I don't know. Something strange is going on. That we can agree on.
You two might not believe me yet, but like you said, you can't return home, and you need help. You'll just have to trust me this time. I can show you to the edge of the forest, and the 2 of you can go down and find help. And then I'll try to rebuild, I guess.
When he puts it like that, there's really not a lot of options. We can't go back, and staying here isn't really an option either. If we just play along, he'll eventually work out that no matter how far we walk, we're not going to get anywhere. Why are you so stubborn? I guess being as far away from here as possible would probably be in our favor too.
Okay. I trust you, Fawn. We'll go with you.
He beamed at me. Seems that was the correct answer.
I don't get a say in this?
Nope.
So, we follow the crazy man out into the middle of the forest. Sounds like an amazing plan, and one that definitely won't end in murder.
That's funny, coming from you.
Really though, Leo's looked kind of delicate up close. A pained expression, dark eyelashes, a slim face.
Hey, up close you aren't so bad looking.
That shut him up.
Actually, I wanted to ask, what exactly does that make you then? Why did they hire you?
An assassin, a mercenary, whatever I'm paid enough to be.
He looked away. Seems like he doesn't want to talk about it. I pushed on anyway.
An assassin? They actually exist? Why?
To get rid of unwanted people. Why else? And right now, you're looking very unwanted.
You know, bodies are being dumped out here. Do you know anything about that?
Just full of questions, aren't you?
I guess that's the end of his leniency. He answered a lot of my questions though, which is surprising.
I'm finished with your wounds now. Try not to get any more dirt in them.
And here I was, thinking of smearing mud through my cuts. Thank you for your wisdom, O gracious one. How will I ever be able to repay you?
Oh dear. Fawn looked away, embarrassed. I'm not great at dealing with people like him, but Fawn's definitely worse. I glared at him, but the cocky grin didn't leave his face.
They won't stop with just sending me. When I don't return, they'll just send someone else.
Then we need to get out of here before anyone else comes. Will you be able to walk? Do you want us to carry you again?
I'm fine on my own.
He tried to stand, but his legs were still unsteady. Finally, with only a little of our unwanted help, he stood up.
If you need to lean on my shoulder while you walk, you can. I don't mind.
I'm not sure I can bend down that far.
Fine. Don't complain when you end up needing my help.
What an asshole. Next to him, Fawn looked like a saint. Wait, Fawn looked like a saint before that even. Okay, just by himself. We don't need Leos for comparison, thank you.
It's a bit of a walk to the forest's edge. We should leave now, before it gets too dark.
Fawn motioned in the direction that I presumed was the way we needed to go. For now, we'll follow him. Even if he might be slightly delusional, it's better than staying here. Especially now that we know that others could come after me.
Yeah. I think that's for the best.
Okay then.
Fawn looked at Leos with a concerned expression on his face. It was obvious just from the way he was standing that he was already struggling. I wonder, will he really be okay with a long walk? I want to help him, but he won't have a bar of it. He's way too stubborn. If I even try to reach out and steady him, he flings abuse at me. Whatever then. Let him struggle. If he really needs help, I want him to ask for it.
Hurry up then. Lead the way, Forest Fairy.
Forest Fairy?
You prefer mouse, pipsqueak, runt? Glad that's settled then. Get a move on, unless you want to be caught here. It'd be a laugh watching you two defend yourselves, though. Maybe we should stick around after all.
Poor Fawn. He really can't catch a break. I looked over at him apologetically. Why is Leo's attitude so bad? I'm not holding my breath, but it'd be nice if we could be even a little bit friendly. We're doing all of this for him anyway. The least he could do is show some gratitude.
We don't have any supplies now, either.
I didn't think about that. What do we do about food?
We'll have to find water along the way, too. I'm sure we'll stumble across some fresh water, so if we can scavenge berries or something, we should be okay.
What about shelter?
I'm not sure. Hopefully, we can find somewhere under cover.
Less talking, more moving.
Yes, yes, Your Highness.
Okay. I think we're going to cut it here for today. Quite a lot happened there. Wait, let me save. Second slot, just to be safe. Haha. Yeah, so I'm quite happy that Fawn is honest with us. It's just that Rain is a bit stubborn and doesn't want to sway from his beliefs that, yeah, has been drilled into his head from when he was born. But like when he showed us this place with the spirits, because he was wondering afterwards if he should have shown us, and I'm glad he did. Like, he's open, he's told us everything. I mean, he doesn't have any reason for us not to trust us, not to tell us everything, and that's great. So, and yeah, Leos as well, like, obviously he isn't as naive as Rain, but even he doesn't know everything. Even he believes that Aurelia Cavala is the only place there is, right? But you did go into the forest, so... Interesting. But yeah, a lot of mysteries to uncover. And maybe next time we'll even see one of these other cities. But until then, I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a thumbs up if you did and leave me a comment down below. Until next time, bye bye!